Roger Lowenstein's Origins of the Crash, The Great Bubble and Its Undoing serves as a sweeping and intricate exploration of one of the most transformative and turbulent eras in modern economic history. Through sharp analysis and vivid storytelling, Lowenstein dissects the cultural, economic, and structural shifts that led to the financial euphoria of the 1990s, the reckless greed of corporate America, and the devastating fallout that followed. The book provides not only a historical account of events but also a sobering critique of the systemic flaws and human behaviors that underpin financial crises. Setting the stage, the 1990s boom and the dot-com bubble. Lowenstein begins his analysis in the 1990s, a decade defined by optimism, technological innovation, and the rapid rise of the Internet. The Internet, heralded as a revolutionary force, sparked widespread enthusiasm among investors, entrepreneurs, and the public alike. Companies like Netscape, Amazon, and Yahoo became symbols of the new economy, promising to reshape industries and create unprecedented opportunities for growth. Investors, intoxicated by the Internet's potential, poured billions into dot-com startups, often without scrutinizing their business models or profitability. This era was marked by what Alan Greenspan famously called irrational exuberance. Investors, analysts, and financial institutions abandoned traditional valuation metrics, focusing instead on speculative growth. The Nasdaq stock market, home to many technology companies, soared to record highs. Lowenstein captures the cultural zeitgeist of the time, portraying a society swept up in the belief that the old rules of economics no longer applied. It was a period when untested ideas were rewarded with astronomical valuations, and skepticism was viewed as a failure to embrace the future. The role of Wall Street, greed and complicity. Wall Street played a central role in inflating the bubble. Investment banks, driven by the lure of lucrative IPO fees, aggressively marketed Internet companies to retail and institutional investors. These banks often overlooked fundamental flaws in the companies they were underwriting, focusing instead on short-term profits. Lowenstein delves into the practice of spinning, where banks allocated IPO shares to executives and favored clients as a way to secure future business. This practice, while highly profitable for Wall Street, eroded trust in the financial system. Stock analysts, many of whom worked for the same banks underwriting IPOs, issued glowing recommendations for Internet companies. These recommendations were often influenced by conflicts of interest, as analysts sought to curry favor with corporate clients rather than provide objective assessments. Lowenstein critiques the complicity of these analysts, whose inflated ratings contributed to the speculative frenzy. Corporate America, the era of greed and deception. The book also examines the cultural shift within corporate America during this period. Traditional values of stewardship and accountability gave way to a relentless focus on maximizing shareholder value. Executives, incentivized by massive stock option packages, prioritized short-term stock price gains over long-term sustainability. This shift created a fertile environment for corporate fraud and financial manipulation. Lowenstein provides a detailed account of some of the most infamous corporate scandals of the era, including Enron, WorldCom, and Tyco. These companies epitomize the excesses of the time, using aggressive accounting practices and outright deception to inflate their earnings and hide their debts. Enron, once a darling of Wall Street, became the most notorious example of corporate malfeasance. The company's use of complex financial structures, such as special-purpose entities, allowed it to obscure its true financial condition and maintain an illusion of profitability. The role of auditors in these scandals is a major focus of Lowenstein's analysis. Accounting firms like Arthur Andersen, which audited Enron, abandoned their watchdog role in favor of lucrative consulting contracts. This conflict of interest undermined the integrity of financial reporting and allowed companies to perpetuate their schemes. The collapse of Arthur Andersen in the wake of the Enron scandal highlighted the broader failures of the accounting profession during this period. The role of deregulation and policy failures. Lowenstein argues that the financial excesses of the 1990s were enabled by a deregulatory environment that prioritized market efficiency over investor protection. The repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which had separated commercial and investment banking since the Great Depression, allowed financial institutions to take on greater risks. The energy sector, too, was deregulated, paving the way for Enron's rise and eventual collapse. The Federal Reserve, under Alan Greenspan, is another target of Lowenstein's critique. By maintaining low interest rates and endorsing market deregulation, the Fed created conditions that fueled speculative investment. Greenspan's belief in the self-correcting nature of markets, while grounded in economic theory, proved overly optimistic in the face of widespread corporate misconduct and systemic vulnerabilities. The crash, unraveling the bubble. The bubble began to unravel in the early 2000s as the limits of speculative growth became apparent. Internet companies that had never turned a profit began to collapse, dragging down the Nasdaq and eroding investor confidence. The bursting of the dot-com bubble marked the beginning of a broader reckoning for corporate America. The implosion of Enron in 2001, followed by WorldCom in 2002, revealed the extent of the corporate fraud that had been hidden during the boom years. These scandals wiped out billions in shareholder value and destroyed the livelihoods of employees who had invested their savings in company stock. Lowenstein vividly captures the human cost of these collapses, illustrating how ordinary people paid the price for the greed and recklessness of corporate leaders. The aftermath, accountability and reform. In the wake of the scandals, lawmakers and regulators scrambled to restore trust in the financial system. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 introduced significant reforms, including stricter accounting standards and increased oversight of corporate governance. Lowenstein evaluates these reforms, acknowledging their importance while questioning their ability to address the deeper cultural and systemic issues that had fueled the crisis. The book concludes with a reflection on the lessons of the bubble and its collapse. Lowenstein warns that financial markets are inherently prone to cycles of boom and bust but argues that the severity of the crash was exacerbated by human failings, greed, hubris, and a lack of accountability. He calls for a return to ethical principles and a renewed focus on transparency and stewardship in business. Conclusion. Origins of the Crash is more than a history of a specific financial crisis. It is a meditation on the recurring patterns of behavior that drive economic cycles. Through meticulous research and incisive analysis, Lowenstein provides a compelling narrative that highlights the importance of integrity, accountability, and oversight in maintaining the health of financial markets. The book serves as both a cautionary tale and a call to action, urging readers to recognize and address the systemic flaws that continue to shape the modern economy.